This is called the Shoofly block. It consists of 4 half-square triangles, and they're here in the corners, and 1 center square, and then 4 squares between the triangles. Now, if I take this block and cut it into 4 pieces, down both middles, like that, and then if I take this piece here that we cut off and I rotate it like that, then take this piece here and rotate it, I end up with the disappearing Shoofly block. So we took a Shoofly block, we cut it up, we repositioned the pieces, and we sewed it back together to get this disappearing Shoofly block. And this is the block we want to cut and piece using the AccuQuilt. So you have instructions online for doing the piecing and cutting with the rotary cutter. And that piecing, you piece this Shoofly block first, cut it up, then reposition the pieces and piece it again to get this block. So we're going to skip all those steps and we're just going to piece this block. So here's what you do, the basic steps you take to look at a block pattern and determine how to cut it using the AccuQuilt. The first thing you're going to do is find the smallest piece. And if you look at this, this is a block, and these individual pieces are called patches. And if you sew a piece together to another piece, like say these 2 triangles here, the blue triangle and the white triangle, you sew those together and that becomes a unit. And if you sew those 2 together with this little rectangle piece, then that's another unit. So you can call this a half-square triangle unit, and you can call this the triangle rectangle unit, whatever you want to call it. And sometimes we'll just call it A or B. So the steps you're going to use to find how to cut this out. First, find the smallest patch. And on here we can see that it is the square. So we have, I'm going to write this down here, we have square, and then we have 4 of these squares. You can see they're all the same size, and we have 4 squares. So we have 4. We put our 4 down. Now next we're going to look and see where a repeat is. And if we look at each square, what's next to it? And immediately we can see that this triangle is pointing to the square. So the dark triangle is pointing to the square. Here it happens again, pointing to the square. Again here, and again here. So we see that there are 4 squares and 4 triangles. They're all going in the same direction on each unit. So we know that's a repeat. And then it repeats 4 times. And if we look at the side here, here is the square, and coming off the square is a rectangle. If we isolate this, so now that we've determined our repeat is this little block here, we can see that we need to make 4 of these to make the entire block. Now the instructions that you find online, their block finishes at 13 inches. But it's really difficult to get that kind of measurement from the AccuQuilt. So we're going to call our block 12 inches. That's the next best thing. Now I'm going to go to this part here. I made a copy of what the block looks like. And this one, you see there aren't any seam lines on there. And we're just going to rely on the repeat. So if I take this repeat down here and I draw a line, what I'm trying to do is find a grid. So I'm going to draw a line like this and then draw a line here. What I'm doing, I'm just outlining my repeat right now. And use your patches as a guide. And this patch ends here. So now here's the beginning of our grid. And since this is the smallest patch, we're going to draw the grid off of it. So we can draw this line here. And then we know that it's going to be an even grid because we see the line here. So we can continue this grid line this way and do the same thing in this direction. In here. So here is our grid, and I'll outline it in thick line. And you see the grid is 3 by 3. If we want to make this entire block 12 inches, and this 3 by 3 grid is in this corner, we know that this has to be 6 inches. Because 6 inches plus 6 inches is 12 inches. Okay? So this has to finish at 6 inches. And in that case, this has to be a 2-inch square. So these grids are 2 inches big. Now we know that our square is going to be finished 2 by 2. Finished. And then we have our half square triangle unit that's going to finish at 4 by 4. So I call that HST. It's 4 by 4. And then these two pieces here are rectangles, and they're 4 inches by 2 inches. So we put a rectangle, 4 by 2. And these are all finished sizes. So here's a recap of what I wrote down. There are 4 squares per block, and they're finished at 2 by 2. Half square triangles are finished at 4 by 4, and there are 4 of them per block. Rectangles finish at 4 by 2, and if we look at our rectangles, we see there are 2. There's 1 here and 1 here, so that's 2 per repeat, so we know there are 8 in the block. So rectangles, so we cut 8. Next we have to figure out how can we cut these 2 by 2 squares, 4 by 4 half square triangles, and 2 by 4 rectangles. And to do that, we're going to look at a PDF file called the equivalent chart, the die equivalent chart from AccuQuilt. This is the Go Cutting Equivalence chart. And it's how to find the die shapes that you need. So you can use your plus and minus up here to make it smaller and larger so you can read it. And I've got it here about 125% to fill this screen. And it's 22 pages long. So you might want to, here it is up here, 22 pages long. So you might want to leave it on your computer, or some people do print it out. But there's a good reason to leave it on your computer, and I'll show you that it's very easy to search. So back with our disappearing Shoofly, we know we needed a 2-inch finished square. The chart is divided into some shapes at the beginning. So here we have flying geese, and then here's some of the flying geese, and we have hexagons next. And if we keep scrolling, we'll see ovals, parallelograms, rectangles, and that kind of thing. So 22 pages is a lot to go through. So if you go up to, let me go to the beginning again. If you go up to this magnifying glass here and click on it, this search screen opens up. And we're going to call it a 2-inch square. And you hit enter, and we see it comes up 13 different times. And the first one is highlighted. You can see that this is talking about a 4.5-inch square, so we don't want that. And we'll click next. And here, now we're under the squares section, and this is a 1/2-inch square. And you can continue clicking through here, and it'll pick up all of the 2-inch square where it says 2-inch squares. So here we've come to this one. This is the actual 2-inch square that we need. This is the cut size, and this is the sewn size. So it's going to finish at 2 inches. this section over here, I'm going to highlight it. It tells you what dies make this 2-inch finished square. And so if you have the Go Cube Mix and Match 8-inch block, and it tells you the die number, or if you have the Go Double Wedding Ring die, or the Go 2.5-inch die, the bow tie, and it gives you a whole list of things you can use. So if you already have it, you can use that. Now I have a Go Cube Mix and Match block, so I can use that for the 2-inch square. What I like to do is when I'm looking at these, if you go up here to this little highlighter mark and click on it, you can highlight what you have. So I'm going to highlight this because I have that. If you go up here and choose File, Save, you can save that. So then you'll know, you'll highlight the things that you already own. So I know I have the Mix and Match 8-inch cube, and I'll use that for the 2-inch square. The next thing we needed was a 4-inch finished half square triangle. So I typed in 4-inch half square triangle and I hit enter. And here it tells us, here's the first one down here. It's 3/4 inch. We don't need that. We'll go to the next one and it's 2 1/4. Click the next one, 4-inch half square triangle. This is the one we want. We look over here and we see that it's also in the Go Cube Mix and Match 8-inch block. And then it's in these other ones, the churn dash, half square triangle, and the star 12-inch. So I'm going to click up here again and highlight that that's what I have. So already I know my cube will be enough to get these two shapes. And then I can save this if I want. And our final thing we needed was a 2 by 4-inch rectangle. So 2-inch by 4-inch rectangle. So type that in and hit enter. And here is one down here. 1.5 inch by 2 by 4-inch rectangle. And a 2 by 4-inch rectangle is right here. And we see again, it's in the Cube Mix and Match 8-inch block. So then I can highlight that if I want. So now we see that we have 3 different dies that we need for our 3 different shapes, and they're all in the Mix and Match 8-inch block.